It began in the early hours of January 3rd, 2026, an unprecedented operation that shocked the world. The United States launched a military mission deep inside Venezuela's capital, Caracas, and captured President Nicolás Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores. This wasn't a political rumor or a diplomatic standoff. It was a bold military action that changed the balance of power in Latin America overnight. To many Americans, this might seem like something out of a Cold War history book, but this is real, and the implications are massive. What exactly happened? Why did the U.S. do this? And what comes next? Let's break it down in straightforward, clear terms.
This is The Quiet Genius.
In the pre-dawn hours of January 3rd, U.S. Special Operations Forces executed what officials described as a highly coordinated raid in Caracas, targeting Nicolás Maduro and members of his inner circle. Elite U.S. units, supported by air intelligence and electronic warfare assets, entered Venezuelan territory without advance notice. Within hours, Maduro and his wife were taken into custody and removed from the country. Clashes were reported around key military installations, and Venezuelan officials later confirmed casualties among security forces and civilians. U.S. officials stated that no American personnel were killed, though several were wounded. By sunrise, the situation inside Venezuela and across the region had fundamentally changed. Within hours, Maduro was transported to the United States and appeared in federal court. The charges were not new. For years, U.S. prosecutors had accused him of narco-terrorism, drug trafficking, money laundering, and conspiracy, allegations tied to long-running investigations into cocaine routes moving from South America into North America. Maduro rejected the charges and described the operation as illegal, insisting he remained the legitimate leader of Venezuela. But this moment was not created overnight. It was the result of decades of tension, and to understand it, we need to understand Venezuela itself. Venezuela sits on the northern edge of South America, directly facing the Caribbean Sea. It borders Colombia, Brazil, and Guyana, and lies close to major shipping lanes that connect the Atlantic Ocean, the Gulf of Mexico, and the Panama Canal. Geographically, Venezuela is not isolated. It sits at a crossroads of energy routes, trade routes, and regional influence. For the United States, that location has always mattered. For global powers, it still does. Venezuela's real wealth. Venezuela is not poor by nature. It is one of the most resource-rich countries on Earth. It holds the largest proven oil reserves in the world, over 300 billion barrels, more than Saudi Arabia, more than Russia, more than Iran. But oil is only part of the story. Venezuela also contains vast gold deposits, especially in the Orinoco region. Iron ore and bauxite, essential for industrial production. Coltan and rare minerals used in electronics and modern defense systems. Fertile agricultural land capable of supporting large-scale food exports. On paper, Venezuela should be one of the wealthiest nations in the Western Hemisphere. So how did a country with this much natural wealth end up here? The modern story begins in the late 1990s with Hugo Chavez. Chavez nationalized industries, especially oil, placing them under state control. For a time, high oil prices masked inefficiencies and corruption. Money flowed in, social programs expanded. But when oil prices fell, the system cracked, production declined, infrastructure decayed, corruption deepened, inflation exploded. By the time Nicolás Maduro took power, Venezuela was already sliding toward crisis. Millions of Venezuelans fled the country, creating one of the largest migration waves in modern Latin American history. And Venezuela stopped being just a domestic problem. Officially, U.S. leaders framed their actions around law enforcement, narcotics trafficking, and national security. But geopolitics is rarely about one reason. Venezuela's oil reserves alone make it strategically significant, especially in a world where energy markets are unstable and global supply chains are fragile. At the same time, Venezuela had built close relationships with Russia, China, Iran, and Cuba. For Washington, that meant rival powers operating near U.S. territory, inside a country holding the world's largest oil reserves. That combination matters. The operation triggered immediate international debate. Critics argued it violated international law and the UN Charter. Supporters argued it was justified under long-standing criminal indictments and security concerns. Russia, China, and Cuba condemned the action. European leaders called for restraint. The United Nations convened emergency discussions. Even inside the United States, lawmakers questioned the limits of presidential power and the precedent such an action sets. This wasn't just about Venezuela anymore. Inside the country, uncertainty followed. Power outages, military deployments, and political divisions intensified. Interim leadership rejected the legitimacy of the operation, while supporters of Maduro mobilized in parts of the country. For ordinary Venezuelans, daily life remained difficult, shaped by shortages, instability, and fear of what comes next. Geopolitics once again had human consequences. Beyond the official statements, there's a quieter layer of politics shaping what's happening, one that rarely makes headlines. Venezuela has long been a pressure point in a much larger power contest. For years, the country has served as a strategic foothold for rival powers looking to expand influence in the Western Hemisphere. Financial loans, military advisors, energy partnerships, and intelligence cooperation slowly tied Venezuela into networks that extended far beyond Latin America. From Washington's perspective, this wasn't just about one leader or one government, it was about preventing a permanent shift in regional influence. At the same time, internal U.S. politics played a role. Energy security, migration pressure, and election year calculations all intersected here. A decisive move abroad can signal strength at home, reshape negotiations, and reset leverage without a prolonged war. In that sense, the operation wasn't just a military action. It was a political message sent on multiple levels, to rivals, to allies, and to domestic audiences. The real contest wasn't happening on the battlefield alone. It was unfolding in boardrooms, diplomatic back channels, energy markets, and long-term strategic planning rooms, places most people never see. Behind every major decision lies the question of resources. Rebuilding Venezuela's oil industry would take years and billions of dollars. Facilities are outdated. Production has collapsed. But if restored, Venezuela could reshape global energy markets. U.S. officials have signaled that American companies could play a role in modernizing production and integrating Venezuela back into global trade systems. Supporters see opportunity, critics see control, and this debate is far from over. What we are witnessing is not just a political event, it's a collision of resources, geography, power, and history. Venezuela sits at the center of that collision. How this moment is remembered as justice, overreach, or strategic necessity will depend on what happens next. But one thing is certain, the balance of power in the Western Hemisphere has shifted, and the consequences will be felt for years. If you want deeper context, timelines, and the hidden logic behind global events, you're in the right place. This is The Quiet Genius. Subscribe,